over the past 18 or so months, the government of Zimbabwe passing a number of statutory instruments, a battery, if I can say, of statutory instruments that support lockdowns, support the COVID-19 or to contain COVID-19 in one way or the other. In your conversation with us now, please do make reference to those, whether they are real for containing the COVID, the pandemic, the pathogens that are deadly, or they are there to contain some ideas that are contrary to the thinking of the establishment. Kumrai, please, that's your time.
Forgive me this opportunity to just make contributions regarding the issue that you have spoken about, Doctor. You are saying that has the government improved or made any significant ways in terms of curbing the spread of coronavirus by imposing a lockdown in Zimbabwe. We see and view the measures by government which have been implemented ever since the lockdown was imposed in March 2020 as a way of locking down democracy in Zimbabwe. We are saying this, that democracy is being locked down in Zimbabwe because we have observed as Zimbabwe lawyers for human rights that ever since the imposition of the national lockdown, we have seen a clear erosion of the democratic space, erosion of the rule of law. We have seen and witnessed gross and systematic human rights violation in the country. Part of the testimony shared in the documentary by Zenzele Day is you have heard testimony from some people who are even clients of Zimbabwe lawyers for human rights, who have shared their agony in terms of losing relatives. You have said the case about Paul Munakopa. I think we have heard Paul's mom speaking. Paul is being represented by our team of lawyers in Bulawayo, Nosimilo Chanaiwa, Priska Duwe, our members there in Bulawayo, recording in talk of serious cases where clients are coming to Zimbabwe lawyers for human rights. We have actually had unfortunate cases of people losing their lives due to the recklessness of our security service players, the police. We have had Levis Ncube having to lose his life. Imagine he died in 2020 after he was assaulted in Bulawayo. Not only that case, there's the case of people being assaulted or being harassed as they are trying to seek to obtain basic services, like women queuing up in millimie queues to secure millimie. We have the case of Lydia Chapalata, who was assaulted and is being assisted by our lawyer Priska Duwe to sue for police brutality, as she was assaulted together with a child while queuing to make purchase critical goods. So we have seen the promulgation, like I've indicated, of several statutory instruments. Our government is relying on ruling through this subsidiary legislation. It's a cause for concern for Zimbabwe lawyers for human rights. It's a cause for concern for people who believe in the just rule of law. We have tried to go to court in some cases to challenge these lockdowns and to also challenge brutality. We have several cases where we are suing not only the police alone, we are suing several state actors. Members of the Zimbabwe National Army were involved in all this. We have even local municipal police who are involved in violating people's rights. So it's a worry. It's worrying to us that we have this pervasive culture of impunity, which is obtaining into our country, which continues in our country. This has not started like with this lockdown. Even prior to the lockdown, we all know what has happened prior to the liberation struggle, what has happened during Gukurahundi, and it continues to happen. We're seeing a government with a penchant for violating people's rights.
Are you still there?
I'm still there, Doc. I think I've made my contribution. If you want me to add more, I can still add more by adding that we have also seen, we're also worried by the delay in establishing the independence complaints mechanism, which is supposed to give direction in terms of assisting people who are aggrieved to lay out, make their complaints regarding the conduct of the security services. We know this is a provision which is provided in Section 210 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, but it's almost 8 years that independent complaints mechanism is not yet been set, and this deprives people of an opportunity to share their concerns in terms of the conduct of the security services. I think I'll stop here, Doc.
Okay, thank you very much, Kumrai. But tell me, just briefly, the names of the perpetrators are known. Evidence galore, evidence is available. We saw some evidence this evening. And you guys as lawyers are also there and you are going to the courts. What challenges are you facing? Why is it taking long to process justice? And is there any chance that some of the, particularly those that died, will they have justice? Will have justice, if I may say, just briefly.
Thank you, Doc. I think in terms of responding to highlighting the challenges which you have indicated to say, what challenges lawyers, legal practitioners facing, I believe that the most pressing challenges is regards to the legal framework to anti-impunity litigation. This includes the time.
Recording in progress.
This includes the time limits for bringing of actions under Sections 70 of the Police Act, the provision in the State Liabilities Act, which prohibits execution or attachment of state property to pay awards. We also experience challenges in the identification of individual perpetrators. And like you've indicated, and the other challenge, Doctor, which we've also experienced regards to the issue surrounding the delay in payments of court awards. The wheels of justice in Zimbabwe and at a slow pace. That's a major worry. But we believe, like I said, we believe that our intention is to make sure that every person in Zimbabwe, any aggrieved person, access justice. We continue to advocate for law and institutional reform in Zimbabwe. We continue to work with the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission in terms of assisting each other to make sure that justice is accessed by all those who are in need. It's unfortunate that the National Peace and Reconciliation Commission, which is supposed to play to augment processes in terms of ensuring that justice is accessible, seems not to be doing anything meaningful or tangible. But we believe that those Chapter 12 institutions can also assist in making those in need of justice to access it, Doctor.
Thank you very much for that explanation, and it's very clear that you are having difficulties, and some of the difficulties are administrative, but most of them probably they are more political than they are supposed to be administrative challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me now to invite a friend of mine who is a scholar, an administrator, an activist, a legal mind, to give us a global perspective, a regional perspective, an Africa perspective, Southern Africa perspective, a Zimbabwean perspective on how COVID has been weaponized, has been used to clamp down on ordinary citizens, on political activists, on civic society activists, on anybody, and with impunity. And the man is none other than the executive director of OSISA, Mr. Sipho Malunga. This is your time, sir.
Thank you so much, Doc. I hope you can see me. Yes, I've just muted. I've just muted myself. Unmuted myself. Sorry. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you, Doc, and thank you to my fellow panelists, and of course to CITE for taking the time to document, this scourge so forcefully. It is heartbreaking to watch a mother, cry for her child whose life is just inexplicably taken by somebody with absolutely no qualms and no hint of any remorse or repentance. We would be mistaken to think that the problem of police brutality started with COVID. We would be mistaken to think that it is restricted only to Zimbabwe. We would be mistaken to believe that it is a problem of undemocratic or politically closed systems only. We have police brutality all over the world. Last year, many of us watched as Americans rallied on the streets under the banner of Black Lives Matter, which was really a culmination of years of protest about the unequal treatment of Black people by the police in the United States of America. And as a matter of fact, by white police with some Blacks in the police force. We watched last year, was it this year, when the SARS movement in Nigeria captivated the whole world, with Nigerians marching in their millions against police brutality by the unit that looks at violent robberies, which in fact has become the culprit in that country and responsible for many, many violations of human rights, especially killings of innocent civilians. We watch all over the world, whether it is in Russia, excessive use of force, even in France, we have seen when the French were protesting. So I want us to be clear that police brutality is a global phenomenon. It is a continental phenomenon, and it is a national phenomenon. In Zimbabwe, it manifests itself in a particular way. And you will recall how when there was the coup in November, the most popular thing that the soldiers did when they took over, when Mugabe was removed, the most popular thing, which I I challenge anybody to say they didn't like it, was to remove the police. Everybody celebrated it, that there's no police anymore. And of course, the soldiers went to the streets themselves and patrolled. Some of us were very uneasy with having soldiers on the streets instead of the police. But the removal of the police from the roads and the roadblocks was widely celebrated. In which country would anybody celebrate the removal of the police? It goes to tell you that the relationship, the social contract between policing and the public has broken down completely. Completely. It means that there is absolutely no way the police service, which is now a police service, it used to be a police force, and it just changed the name. There is no way it can be meaningful. It can be effective in its role of investigating crime, preventing crime, detecting crime, and maintaining law and order. There are four key roles of police in any country in the world. Now, in those key functions, the police is unable to accomplish anything unless it has the trust and the confidence of the public. It cannot maintain law and order because law and order requires people to voluntarily subject themselves to the law. A senator from the US once said, was explaining the process of how you make a law, how you get people to follow and comply with the law, and said, you see, with seatbelts, people don't understand this, that seatbelts were not legislated as seatbelts, were not legislated until everybody was actually using them. Car manufacturers put seatbelts in as a safety feature, and they encouraged people to use them. And there were lots of advertisements in the news encouraging people to use seatbelts. And the law requiring people to wear seatbelts only came much later when most people were actually using them. So it's absolutely important to remember that maintaining law and order requires the cooperation of the public. Because the law is known and the law enforces itself, it does not require excessive policing and detection and punishment as a result. But we know what has happened, and the context in which this has happened in Zimbabwe is a political context, a culture, in which the police have been instrumentalized as a weapon, a political weapon, at certain times, not at all times, at certain times, so that they are unable to differentiate where the accountability begins and where it ends. We know that we have always had a constitution before 2013, and the constitution we had before had a Bill of Rights. It protected citizens. It said that citizens have the following rights. But we know that when politics comes into play, the police would be used, deployed as an arm of the ruling party to violate the rights of citizens of opposing parties. That would be the worst case. The best case would be that the police would be used to do nothing. So while the law provides that the functions of the police is to prevent crime, is to maintain law and order, is to detect and punish, the police would not perform these functions. if the transgressors or the violators belong to the ruling party. What that says, and what it said to the police, what it has always said to the police, is that it does not really matter. The law doesn't matter. Rights don't matter. All that matters is the intention and the will and the desire of whoever is in power. At the broadest level, that's the message that each and every police officer who joins the police force knows, that I'm not here to uphold the law. I'm here to do what I'm told by the political elite of the ruling party. That's the first point. But at a different level, police then get to know that they are able to do anything without any consequence. Because if you open the door and you say to somebody, it is okay to look aside when you see a crime committed by this category of citizen, you are literally saying that you don't have to prevent crime. It's not your job. You only are there to utilize your role as we tell you to. Because there is no way a policeman can be told to look aside, specifically in relation to a large segment of the population, and then be expected at the same time to be vigilant. It's contradictory. It's a paradox. So therein is the problem, the political culture. The police have no way. We can do anything and everything. And I applaud the work being done by colleagues at the Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights. I applaud the work being done by colleagues at Mtonjeni. I applaud the work being done by SIDE, documenting, shining the spotlight on these violations. But the reality is that police reform cannot be meaningful in the context of this existing political culture. How many times do we see, they say that if you want the police to come to your house, if they are robbers, you must say that there's an MDC demonstration outside my house. In 5 minutes, you'll have a truckload of police. That's what the joke is. But if you call them and say, I've got 5 robbers in my house, they will not come. That in itself explains the perceptions about the police, that they are not there to do anything to protect citizens. Now, it makes it even worse when police themselves, acting on their own, and I'm not even talking about politically here, because all these cases, mind you, that were in this film, this documentary, have nothing to do with politics. Nothing. So what does this tell you? I know we've talked about politics. I know the others, Dr. Moyo, talked about politics as well. But the problem is not politics. I want us to understand that the problem has now gone beyond. The problem has gone beyond politics. Yes, there is a political culture issue around police brutality, around lack of accountability, around the way the police conduct itself and impunity. But it is now more than that. So now we have lost completely any sense of individual or even personal accountability by police. Every Jack and Jill who's a policeman believes they are king. They're king of everything, king of the castle, king of the road. That is why they will throw these spikes without even due regard. They will throw a spike on the road. And whoever is driving on that road, be damned, we don't care. They will shoot at a car full of people. Shoot at a car full of people. No reason, no provocation. They will shoot at a car without any warning, as they killed Paul, as they shot the gentleman in Chesa Forest. They will beat people for no reason, because they can. And there's no other reason, because they can. Because it has no consequences whatsoever. Because they've been told they can do it to MDC, they can do it to human rights activists. So why wouldn't they do it to everybody else? Why would they stop only at MDC? Because nobody's written MDC on their face, and nobody's written activist on their face. The culture has been created that as a policeman, you do whatever the hell you want. It's unbelievable and unacceptable. But the fascinating thing is that the government is aware of this. They are so aware that when the coup happened, the first thing they did was remove all the police from the road. They knew and they know that the police are rogue. And then they put them back. Well, we don't know if it's the same ones that came back. And we don't even know what the new mandate is. So ultimately, at the end of the day, and I'm going to wind up now, I think I've gone on for too long. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we can have all the complaints and independent complaints commissions of the police, of the army, of the security sector. It will likely make no difference. Especially because the culture has to change. The culture has to change. The political culture has to change. The instrumentalization of violence as a political tool in our society has to change. And the police are the instrument, they are the weapon, they are the army, ready and willing to be unleashed on poor citizens. Nurses decide we cannot keep treating people without masks. We are going to protest. We are going to toy, spend the day singing, complaining. Maybe the government will hear us. The police are there in their trucks with their gear, ready to beat them. Same police who can't even afford to go to a private hospital. Same police who, when he starts coughing and he has COVID, he goes to the same hospital. He has absolutely no problem beating up those nurses. It's completely crazy and inexplicable. You ask yourself, why? What has happened here? But it's a culture that has been created. A culture that you can do anything. Anybody and everybody can do anything the hell they want. And unless, and I say this, unless the government does something about this, it will overwhelm the government itself. You know what they say? You feed the beast starts small, the beast gets bigger, and eventually the beast devours you. The incidents of robbery, armed robbery, the impunity, it's getting out of hand. And sooner or later, it will overwhelm the government. And it's an albatross on the neck, not just of the citizens, but of the government itself. So for me, I mean, Zimbabwe is not the only country that has had this problem. The United States is battling with it. And some people are saying, don't give any money to the police, defund them. Not necessarily a solution, because we need policing. But we need policing that is responsible, that is accountable, that is transparent. So ultimately, I agree that the Independence Police Commission or Security Commission is an important step, but we need to be calling for police reform. I've said if I was to have the misfortune of one day being the Minister of Police, the first thing I would do is to fire each and every police officer and make them apply for their jobs again. And I'm not saying that we don't have good police. I'm saying I would vet every police officer, and I would put every police officer through training. Once again, achieve a reorientation of mind, purpose, and function. Why are you a police officer? To keep people safe. That's my job. Not to beat people, to harass people, to intimidate people, to take money from the people, to scare people, throwing tear gas in combis full of children. It's nonsense. But that's what we have. And the government has to act. And I say this not just as a civil society activist, but as a citizen. The very reason why the police were removed in November is the very reason why the government needs to do a complete overhaul of the police. But will it do it? Because the police are also the vital instrument, as we have seen. We know the government uses the police, of course. So, but I say, this is the snake that will grow and outgrow, and it will devour its creator. Because they are armed, they are trained, some of them. We assume they don't behave like some of them. But they will devour their creator. It always happens. The levels of criminality, the levels of indiscipline, and some will go rogue, and they have. The robberies we're getting, these are not robberies by untrained people. We know this. These are military, trained operatives, clinical precision when they rob. And you know that these people are trained. And that becomes a problem for the government, because in all societies, one of the things the government must retain is a monopoly on the use of force, but not so much to weaponize it, but as an instrument to protect. Now, the use of force is dispersed. A police will shoot somebody in the middle of the night. You don't even know, you're so scared. You're driving and then they shoot you. They're even driving in an unmarked car. So they follow you in a car that's not even a police car. Obviously, you're going to run away because you think you're being robbed. And then they shoot at you. They haven't even identified themselves as police. It's just completely unbelievable. But thank you so much. I think I've exceeded my time. But I do think that this is a very important subject, and thank you for shining the spotlight. We do need to push for police sector reform, security sector reform. It's in the interest of the government, by the way. The government may not know this, but it is in the interest of the government to reform the security sector so that it is under proper and full civilian control. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sipho. You raised a number of interesting and yet painful issues. And one of them is that you say the police officers believe that they are there not to protect the citizens, not to uphold the law, not to protect human rights, but to do the bidding for the political elite, for the ruling elite. That's painful, and yet that's what we are witnessing in the country. But my quick question for you would be, given all this, what are the options for the citizens? I hear the reform part of it, the transformation of the police through government itself, but the government is complicity, is a participant in all what is happening in the country and all what is happening in the security services sector. So what options do we have as citizens, as ordinary citizens? Are we destined to our fate on the security? What's your take?
No, we are not. We are not. There's so many things citizens can do, Dr. Moyo. There's so many things citizens can do. And these things may not necessarily be by way of stopping the police. But remember, this is the saddest thing about our situation, right? The police are the front end of a spear. As I say, they instrumentalize. They're the ones that will go and beat activists or citizens or nurses or doctors, even grandmothers. If they were to protest for their pensions, you can bet the police are going to beat them, their own grandmothers. Now, the public can raise the cost of this behavior by the police. Remember, it is not as if the police are so well remunerated to do this. They are not doing this because they are benefiting opportunity, they have big houses, they get more money, they get gross. No, they're not. It is a psyche in their heads now that being a policeman with a uniform gives you a certain entitlement to abuse people and rights and to use your uniform to do this. But the people can push back. And I say this honestly, the people can push back. Policemen are lodgers, they are tenants in people's houses. Policemen are customers. Policemen are passengers. Policemen are all these things. It's not like policemen have cars to go to work. They get, because they are wearing a uniform, they expect to get a ride for free. We can refuse to give them a ride. There are ways in which people can protest that are not violent, that send messages that we don't like what you are doing.
Okay.
In Ndebele, we say, "Ugufinya, siyabafinya." I don't know what is in Shona. Finya is to blow your nose. You can say, "I don't like this. Come on, stop it." And there are ways in which citizens can do this. They don't need to go to the streets, because if they go to the street, the police will beat them. They will beat them. Of course, they will beat them.
Okay. No, thank you very much. Thank you very much for those heads up. Ladies and gentlemen, we only have 5 minutes or so left before we wrap up this session. I will just take 2 or 3 quick comments or questions from our participants here. If you have got a question, you just raise your hand. And whilst you are thinking about your question, I just want to go back to my panelists and say, earlier on, when we were watching the documentary, it was raised, an issue of ethnicity was raised. Was that an isolated situation or incident, or do you think ethnicity has been part of this strategy within the police force? Just a quick one, was it isolated, or it is an issue that we should be concerned and should generalize and say there is an issue in Zimbabwe, and which is worrying? If there's any one of you who can quickly, but very quickly, we don't want to spend too much on that one, but if you've got an insight on it. Is there any hand? You can raise your hand if you want to make a quick contribution. We have 5 minutes before the end of this program. My panelists, where is Kumbirai?
Doc, I'm here. Thank you. I don't know whether my response will speak to this, but I'll maintain that the observations or that is Zimbabwe lawyers for human rights were observed since March 2020 up to now. I've just tried to give the figures here to say we have noted that in Bulawayo, in Matabeleland province, in Midlands, we're looking at 10 cases of which we are representing Some of the cases, and I want to say, they also escape us. They may go unreported, or they may be reported to other organizations who are also in.
Yes, sir.
Recorded 10 cases which have been where we are assisting clients who domiciled in Bulawayo, in Matabeleland Province North, in Matabeleland South, in Midlands. Quite shocking. I would tell you, there's this case of a chief, a traditional leader, who is called Trimonari, who was a victim to the police brutality in April last year. I would leave it like this, Doctor, to say this points to a worrying situation. If you look at the numbers, to simply say we have even recorded the number of deaths, the death of Lefse Ncube, the death of Paul Nakopa. It worries us that these are happening in the southern region, which has been a bit unfortunate in terms of we look at the Gukurahundi massacres. So it's a bit worrying to simply say the trend seems to point to an abuse of our colleagues, or to an abuse of people living in Matabeleland region in Midlands. Although, like I indicated, it's also spread to Chipinge, it's also spread to Mutoko, to Harare. But the figure that I gave to you are worrying to us as Zimbabwe lawyers for human rights.
Oh, okay, thank you. For Sikatele, we saw a number of women in the documentary. I mean, you raised the issues already about the women, and but is this prevalent, or is it, or was it prevalent across the country, where women seem or appear to be the targets of the police? Is it prevalent? Is it a pattern, or it's something that you just observed?
Thank you very much, Doc. What we've realized as an organization is that cases of violence lockdown. So I think it has been like prevalent across the country, though there have been kind of like incidences here and there within the country. But I think really cases of violence against women have been there, and they continue being there. And for us, they're a cause for concern.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I can't see any hand. It appears to me that our participants were content with the presentations and the comments that they made on the chat group. Is there any last word in any one of you? Sipho, what is your last word?
Thank you. So I would be reluctant to categorize. Obviously, any phenomenon manifests in a specific context in a particular way. I have absolutely no doubt that the sense of an ethnic agenda in the callousness and the violence of the police in respect of particular regions would be prominent, for the simple reason, and this is something, it has a lot to do with also the deployment, right? So if in a particular place, police are only from another place and they commit these crimes, and of course, in the case of the Cowdrey Park ladies, they did clearly exhibit an ethnic agenda as they spoke, but just judging by surnames, Paul was not historically, originally a person of Ndebele origin, and the gentleman who was shot in Chesa. It was striking, right, that the two people who came in the video were all speaking in Shona. The first two people, victims of police brutality. And this brutality has happened in Matabeleland. It looks like it's a paradox, a contradiction of sorts, but it just tells you that the police will do it to anybody. They'll do it to anybody. Is some of it ethnic? Of course, we've seen this, yes. But I said earlier that the whole problem has gone beyond. You know, when they beat people in Harare, MDC supporters, I'm sure the majority of those people are Shona, they're not in the belly. But it's what it is. So I'm not discounting the ethnicity of it, but I'm saying the problem is way, way, way larger than that.
Thank you very much. I now want to close the session. Is there any one of you with a burning issue that you can't leave the stage without saying it? From my panelists, any one of you with an issue that you think Zimbabweans at home and abroad need to hear this, please put it on the table as your closing remark. If you don't, that's fine. You have already made your views known. Silence then suggests that you have made your points. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, I just want to conclude and close this session by saying fundamental issues were raised. The issues that are pertinent to the health of our country, to the health of our society. The questions that remain that will need to be answered by Zimbabweans themselves, answered by the state, answered by government, and all other actors that are concerned about the health of our country. One of them is what should be done, what can be done, what must be done to curb, to stymie, to combat the violence that has emerged over the years and is state-sponsored. We saw it in the 1980s, it progressed in the 1990s, in the 2000s. It is with us during the COVID era. What must, what should, what could be done? It's a question that I'm putting on the table for you as Zimbabweans, for you as institutions, for you as academics, civic society. We need to grapple with this. We need to have the solution to this. The second observation and a question, a rhetoric question for me is the behavior of the state, the behavior of the police, the behavior of the military officials appear to be similar to the behavior of the same officials in China when the COVID started. I'm just wondering, and this is a rhetoric question, I'm just wondering whether our government is using a script rather, which they took from Beijing, and they are using this. And if so, what does it mean? Because Beijing is in Zimbabwe in every sector of our economy. Their footprint is everywhere in the administration, in the economy, mining sector, agriculture, construction, infrastructure, everywhere. So are we going to continue to see the Beijing model manifesting itself in various arms and state institutions? That's a question that I'm putting on the table, and is for your reflection as in whatever station of life you are. The third one for me is we are only 18 months before the 2023 elections, the behavior of the state, the lockdowns that we see, the behavior of the police, where particularly the behavior of government and party officials, where some other parties are going out there campaigning, but stopping everybody else under the disguise that we are under lockdowns. What does it mean for our democracy? What does it mean for the 2023 elections? We need to grapple with these questions. We need to think about these questions and engage each other and engage in various spaces where we are operating, because these questions are germane to the health of our state, to the health of our society, and to the health of our future as a nation. So I leave them with you. I don't have answers. I'm just putting them on the table for your reflection. Otherwise, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Sipho. Thank you, Kumbirai. Thank you, Sikatele. Thank you, Zenzele. Thank you, Setule. Thank you, everybody who participated in this documentary and this discussion. We are grateful, and let's meet again in other forums and let's continue the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.